June 1st, 2016. Hey folks. In our last video we discussed how the Earth is experiencing an enormous increase in volcanic eruptions in just the past few months. And we also said that the numbers of earthquakes registering 6 or above on the scale has also risen dramatically at the same time. We also mentioned that those individuals living along the West Coast, and specifically in the region of the Pacific Northwest, should be preparing for a mega quake, followed by a massive tsunami of catastrophic proportions, as well as the probability of violent volcanic eruptions in their neighborhood. Now, we mention these scenarios not because we think it is going to happen or we believe it is going to happen, but because we are being warned by both seismologists and volcanologists that it is going to happen, just as it did occur 315 years ago in the year 1700. Now, it may be easy to dismiss this as just a coincidence in the timing of events, except for the realization that the events we are seeing unfold in this region, and for that matter across the globe, are getting progressively worse. And we have presented the scientific charts to you in our previous videos that argue this point, that the Earth is getting extremely unstable. Of course, it is just as easy to imagine a host of reasons why this is happening. We can say it's a natural occurrence. The Earth is going through a cycle of events. Or the sun is to blame for the increase in activity, which is exactly what agencies such as NASA and the USGS would want you to believe. But the evidence is suggesting that something more complex is causing these dramatic Earth changes. And that something, we believe, is a rogue system of planetary bodies that have entered into our own solar system and are presently creating havoc here on Earth. But if you have been paying attention to what is developing in the solar system, it is not only planet Earth that is being affected by the presence of these mysterious objects. It is virtually all of the planets in our solar system that are being affected in some manner or another. In fact,
in this installment of the weatherspace.com video edition, developments on Jupiter has transformed the appearance of the solar system's largest planet. One of the two main cloud belts on Jupiter has completely disappeared. Now, we're not talking about fading here, folks. It has completely disappeared. Take a look at these two pictures. They say it's a big event, but they're monitoring the system very closely, and they do not fully yet understand what is going on. Of course not. We don't know what's going on. We haven't lived for millions of years to see all this stuff that goes on with the planet. Something might be going on with the solar system that we don't know about. This picture shows before, August 4th, 2009. You see the belt, and then take a look at after, on May 8th, 2010. Look at that. The belt has completely disappeared. Now, what would trigger something that disappeared? In my opinion, it will probably be something to do with the weather patterns, probably the upper atmosphere messing around with the planet's clouds. But guess what? Now that doesn't stop right there. If it affects Jupiter, can it be a global event? They always say the sun controls the weather, so we might be looking at some kind of an event where maybe the Earth patterns might just change. The upper level pattern in the Earth just might change our climate over the next, maybe 20 years or so. But this is happening so fast. Before, in 2009, Jupiter had a belt. After that, now in 2010, it doesn't. Let's keep an eye on our own planet.
In fact, if you've been observant, you will have noticed that our neighbor planets of Venus, Jupiter, and Mars have been increasingly luminant. In other words, they've been much brighter in the night sky. Certainly much brighter than what I can recall as a young boy who was so fascinated in the stars and the planets. What other than another presence in our solar system, whether it be some sort of dwarf planet, a failed star, or a binary companion to our sun, that could cause these changes that are occurring not only in our solar system, but here on planet Earth. So, are governments across the world aware of its presence? Do they know exactly what is happening to our planet? And are they making preparations for what they expect or anticipate will take place? Have you heard about the program called Cascadia Rising? You probably haven't heard of this if you're one of those individuals who just relies on mainstream media for your news. But then again, you're probably not going to hear much about this from the cable news networks because it isn't in their best interest to let you know. Cascadia Rising is a large-scale disaster preparedness exercise that will be conducted by the government agency FEMA starting next week between June 7th and the 10th in the Pacific Northwest. So, of course, the question arises as to why an exercise of such significance is about to take place by a federal agency. Certainly an exercise that's going to be very expensive and time-consuming. Why conduct this if that particular agency wasn't concerned or even knew that something catastrophic or life-threatening was about to happen? Now, we are being told, according to the report, that this preparedness exercise will be conducted in such a way as to simulate a 9.0 magnitude quake along the Cascadia subduction zone, which quake would be followed by a tsunami that would create waves more than 50 feet in height. Okay, so think about that. 50 feet, that's approximately the height of a 5-story building, which by any means would be absolutely devastating to any type of structure or edifice which stands in its way. The drill will bring together local and state emergency responders, FEMA, and a number of military organizations and government first responders. The drill comes as a number of top scientists are warning the Cascadia subduction zone is a disaster waiting to happen. While most people have heard of the San Andreas fault line in California, very little attention has been given to the Cascadia subduction zone. But when compared to the San Andreas, the Cascadia subduction zone is a much larger threat and a more scarier threat than is the San Andreas fault. The Cascadia Rising preparedness drill will test plans that have been put together over the last couple of years. Plans that expects in the neighborhood, if not more than, 14,000 deaths, 30,000 injuries, and the complete devastation of the Pacific Northwest coast. According to planners, the quake could devastate the region for decades and could displace 1 million people from Northern California to Southern Canada. So, how bad could it get? Well, over 7 million people throughout the region could be affected by the Cascadia subduction zone. When the quake hits, the force is expected to cause liquefaction across large areas of the porous region. And in areas that aren't liquefied, the force of the quake could cause huge landslides, devastating destruction to thousands of bridges and buildings, and could cause as many as 30,000 avalanches in Seattle alone. Now, the following model, which we're going to show to you here in just a second, was created by the NWS Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, also referred to as PTWC. It's based off of modeling from an earthquake that hit the area on January the 27th of the year 1700, approximately 315 years ago, which caused a massive tsunami that actually struck the coast of Japan. So traveled for thousands of miles across the Pacific Ocean. Now, officials are planning for a disaster unlike anything we've ever seen. The response will include the deployment of civilian and military personnel and will exceed anything we've ever had to respond to as a country. So think about that for a minute. Anything we've ever had to respond to as a country. What in the world could cause such a response by our government? So the response will be orders of magnitude larger than Hurricane Katrina or Superstorm Sandy. Now this is according to Lieutenant Colonel Clayton Braun, who's with the Washington State Army National Guard. So here we have an immediate call to action from state and federal agencies that indicates there is an imminent threat to both life and infrastructure as a result of the instability of the region. But one thing's missing here. They fail to indicate in the report as to the rush to action here. Why is it so important that this be conducted at this time? What is the significance of conducting the exercise now, as opposed to, let's say, last year or the year before, or 5 years ago, or for that matter, 2 years from now? What is so important about this date? What is it that they seem to know that the rest of us aren't aware of or aren't being told about? Is it possible that they are preparing for what is coming our way from the dark regions of space? I first heard of Planet X in 2001, shortly after the 9/11 incident, when a lot of people were searching the internet to see if there was some sort of correlation between the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center and the prophecies of Nostradamus. It was during this time frame that millions of people were also searching Google to learn what they could about these mysterious rogue planets that could wreak havoc on the other planets in our solar system. Now, the likelihood of such an event occurring in our lifetime had for a long time been considered nothing more than a wild conspiracy theory. But now people were actually becoming genuinely concerned about its existence and about what effect it would have on our planet. In 2009, I interviewed a gentleman, J.R. Moore, who has a national radio show. In the interview, he indicated that he had spoken with some retired naval brass who were moving to the Ozarks for safety. So you say, why the Ozarks? Well, for one thing, the region is more than 1,000 feet above sea level, and thus it would be a safe location from rising waters, which is something that is expected to occur if we have a flyby of the Planet X system. Now, that interview was published on our YouTube playlist, and it's published under the title NIBIRU Truth and the Global Warming Cover-Up. And I would encourage you to listen to it in its entirety, as it does tell us a very interesting story of what preparations the government is making or has made to get ready for the passage of the Planet X system. Now, Russia believes that this system exists, and they are presently building shelters in Moscow and throughout the country in preparation for its flyby. In the United States, preparations have been underway for many years in anticipation of the passage of the Planet X system. One of these massive underground facilities is believed to be located beneath the Denver International Airport, but it is off limits to both the public and the media as a top secret facility. There has also been considerable controversy revolving around the deaths or the mysterious disappearances of individuals in the scientific community who have become whistleblowers with regard to Planet X or a dwarf star in our solar system. Some of you may already know the story behind Dr. Robert Harrington, the chief astronomer of the U.S. Naval Observatory, who died before he could publicize the fact that Planet X is approaching our solar system. Many feel his death is part of a cover-up, one in which government agencies quickly moved to conceal the most earth-shaking discovery in history. So we are certain that the studies that Harrington was conducting in his quest to locate Planet X are very real. But whether he actually died from cancer or was silenced by the elite is still a question worth investigating today. Now, on the flip side of the coin, two reports were recently published by a news site called someonesbones.com. One of those reports states that in 2010, an ominous YouTube video posted by a user calling himself NIBIRU Shock provided the world with the first substantiated images of the Nibiru system. These images, which are being shown here now, were reportedly substantiated by Marshall Masters, who is a former science features editor for CNN News and who is now a Planet X researcher who has a website which is yowusa.com. That's YOWUSA.com. The persona known as NIBIRU Shock was reportedly proven to be Professor Ronald Jason Patrick, a scientist who worked at the Australian Astronomical Observatory, who apparently died in an airplane crash earlier this year. Now, the other report, and the one which has sparked a firestorm across astronomical and conspiracy theory internet communities, is the one that involves an individual named Dr. Ronald Shimshuk. Now, I have to admit that I have never heard of this individual, and very little is actually known about him, other than what is being reported on various alternative news sites. Now, he reportedly is an MIT graduate. His credentials include 7 years at McDonnell Douglas, 4 years employment at Boeing, and 3 at NASA. He also was employed as an astronomical consultant at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. Now, according to the alleged interview that was conducted with Dr. Shimshuk, he stated that the Nibiru system is very real, that it is essentially a solar system of its own which will intersect with our solar system. Now, at its heart is a brown dwarf star approximately 1/8 the size of our Sun. The brown dwarf is orbited by 7 planets or moons, some smaller than our moon and some larger than Earth. Of greatest concern is the third planet of this system, which is several times Earth's mass with a nickel-iron core. It is predicted that this planet will pass within 0.3 AU of Earth, or roughly within 27 million miles of our planet. Now, a follow-up interview with this astrophysicist was supposed to take place with YouTube personality Steve Olson, but Dr. Shimshuk somehow mysteriously disappeared shortly into that interview. Now, we have been able to locate a website that has recently appeared on the internet that details who this individual is and contains a validated photograph of Nibiru, which is said to be the first substantiated image taken in the northern hemisphere, which we are showing to you here now. It is important to note that I'm using the term reportedly in referring to these articles because they can't be substantiated. We're uncertain of their authenticity or the accuracy of the report, And furthermore, I have been unable to find any credible information as it relates to either of these individuals that can corroborate their existence in any way or the information they are attempting to provide to the public. Another story that is sweeping the social media circuit, and one which, if true, could have been a deliberate attempt to inform the public, is one that involves Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. The report says the following. Queen Elizabeth stunned BBC production staff yesterday while preparing to deliver the Queen's speech at the state opening of Parliament, hinting that she is planning to abdicate the throne and flee the United Kingdom, a BBC insider claims. Quote, "One is making the necessary preparations to abandon ship," Her Majesty said. "A violent storm is coming, the likes of which Britain has never seen." Her Majesty was speaking to her advisers while taking on the Parliament robe of state and the imperial state crown in the robing chamber. However, she was already wearing a microphone, and her comments were heard by the whole gallery. She seemed angry that she had to remain neutral in her speech. She said there is solid intelligence from military top brass that if we don't Brexit, there is an inevitable World War III scenario that will play out, the insider said. World War II will seem like a bump in the road compared to this. I must warn my subjects, the Queen said. The line was cut off at this point, and BBC production staff were urgently addressed by the director, John Kirby. He said he had been warned by BBC executives that the head of state had been shooting her mouth off a lot lately, and that we must all ignore, forget, delete from our memories everything that we have heard from her. By warning advisers that she has made the necessary preparations to flee the country, is she hinting that she has inside information of the darkest kind? Of course, it is all speculation, more than likely coming from the British tabloids. But then we can't be too certain of that either, as the heads of state have been acting quite peculiar these days, sort of on edge and a bit uneasy, and yet we're not really sure of the reasons for their odd behavior. But until it becomes known to all, we can only wait it out. So let's get to the nuts and bolts of this presentation. There is good reason to believe that the NIBIRU Planet X system is entering into or nearing the inner solar system, which would place it somewhere between Jupiter and Mars, which is the outermost of the 4 planets which comprise the inner solar system. In addition to the tremendous numbers of volcanoes erupting in recent weeks, and the increased numbers of earthquakes greater than 6.0, which we already talked about in this video, there are a number of other reasons to consider in making this analysis. One being the tremendous increase in asteroid and fireball activity since the beginning of 2016, as this chart is showing you. If the Planet X system is approaching the asteroid belt, which is situated between Jupiter and Mars, then this could explain the influx in cosmic activity as of late, since the tail of this system will be thrusting these objects out of their normal orbit within the belt and outwards towards the Earth. The fact that the Earth's magnetic field is collapsing should be of great concern to us all, because it foretells of a pole shift that will punch holes in the ozone layer, destroy power grids, cause extreme weather events across the globe, and weaken our ability to fight the effects of damaging rays. The closer that the Planet X system gets, it less likely that our magnetic field will be able to withstand its powerful influence on the Earth's core, resulting in a catastrophic flip of the poles. The most compelling reasons can most likely be seen in the following videos, which I'm going to present to you, which I believe are very convincing captures of the Nibiru complex within our solar system. Now, I would like to thank those individuals who were diligent in capturing these remarkable images and sharing them with us here on the social media sites. Now, this first video, which was posted in our video comment section, was captured in the Pacific Northwest and depicts what has been commonly referred to as two suns. Now, it's a very bright planet. We believe it is the innermost planet in the Planet X system, which revolves around Nemesis, the companion star to our sun. So take a look at this video. Now, in observing this video, you will see that this planet Helion moves with the sun in a natural manner behind the clouds and is an object that generates its own light, thus ruling out any form of lens flare or atmospheric anomaly. There has been several observations of this planet in the past month, including this capture from December of 2015, as well as the live webcam capture of this large gaseous planet from São Vicente in Brazil in April of this year. The next video is one that I consider to be one of the most definitive captures of the Planet X system, as this panorama view taken in Alaska will show. In observing this video, you will notice that the webcam first records the setting sun, at which time another very bright object, possibly a binary dwarf star or companion to our sun, appears and also proceeds to set over the horizon, followed by a trail of smaller planetary objects in succession, a tail that has often been referred to as the string of pearls, which are now appearing in Skycam videos around the world. This is by all means an incredible capture and defies explanation. Now, when I say that the video defies explanation, it means that it would be very difficult for debunkers to claim that the objects of interest are just lens flare or sky anomalies or some sort of refraction or reflection coming from the web camera itself. As you can see from the video, our sun has already set below the horizon when the objects of interest begin entering into the picture as a separate light source, one after another in succession. Are you aware of the blue star Kachina? It has been appearing in the sky recently. In Frank Waters' writings on Hopi mythology, the blue star Kachina is a spirit that will signify the coming of the beginning of the new world by appearing in the form of a blue star. The blue star Kachina is said to be the ninth and final sign before the day of purification, described as a catastrophe or a world-engulfing cataclysm that will lead to the purification of planet Earth. As you can see in these recently published images, it seems the Hopi prophecy is coming to fruition, as in a short period, a mysterious blue star or planet has appeared in the skies around the world. Last month, a strange blue star or planet was seen in the skies over Arizona, Spain, and in the British Isles. As you can see, they all appear to represent the same blue object. Hopi were instructed to tell of the great purification just ahead of the time when humankind would once again become highly civilized, tending to become careless and leading us to self-destruction. They said that along the way, the industrialized world will have certain problems. People will be uncomfortable because of the changing times, and they will have to make adjustments to find new lifestyles. It is said that after the appearance of the blue Kachina, the red Kachina, which is known to be the planet Nibiru, the outermost planet in the Planet X system, will come and will bring the day of purification. On this day, the earth and all life as we know it will change forever. It may be that the Hopi Indians were correct in their prophetic teachings about the purification of this world. Now, the last video we're going to present here was provided to Skywatch Media News in early March of this year by one of our Facebook followers. As you can see, there is a very clear capture of what appears to be the blue Kachina to the far right of the sun. Now, this video is very similar to the images that we just presented to you in this video.